Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Climb with Kelsey. I am so usually you're used to just me talking at you, but today we get to hear all from Kerry, and she is Kerry Ann Photography, a business and photographer. So business coach is something she's really diving into, and this is how I know Kerry. So I actually took her sales script course about how to like really formulate your sales calls and like the psychology behind that. And I love working with Kerry. And you guys will see too, she is such a warm, sweet little human, but she knows her stuff, man, and it's tangible and just so helpful. So Kerry, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm just can't wait to chat more about work-life balance because who better?
Yes. Oh, thanks, Kelsey. It is so good to be here. I love talking about all things business and life. My whole background prior to starting my photography business full time 4 years ago. And, everybody does a little on the side before that. But I was a major gift fundraising, which is all soft sales. So it's closing these big gifts anywhere from like 10,000 to multi-million dollar gifts, and just what the psychology that goes into that and the relationship building and just understanding what a sales cycle is was so helpful when I was starting my business. And I didn't realize that most creatives don't have that when they start their business. It's just based on passion and running for it. And, you know, there was a lot to share. And so I'm so excited that I'm able to lean more into that and just teach some really tangible, easy to implement tools that you can make your own, make sure it feels good for you and for your clients, so that all the sales that you're closing are just really, really aligned. And so that's the sales script course that you were talking about. The aligned sales system is just how to make more aligned sales, how to close even more, make sure that your pricing is on point, make sure that you are preparing, executing, following up from those sales calls in a way that just really speaks to yourself and to your ability, and positions you as an expert, but also makes the conversation so natural, and just the entire process in booking with you so natural. So it's been great and like a lot of fun to put together. So many people are having great results from it, and we'll definitely have a little like code for your people to use too.
Yes, yay. I know. I mean, like everyone who's a coach, or even for photographers, like this sales script is just chef's kiss. I mean, I like hate feeling salesy and like icky about that. And it just took that pain away 100%. And just having like the way to serve couples while also like, advertising what we can do for them and like what makes us special. So it felt really great. So,
Yay.
and we're
Good. I'm
all
so
kind of
glad.
like, we are just talking before we hit record about how like busy this season of year is for photographers specifically, but I think just everyone, if I'm honest, like I can feel like the weight on everyone's shoulders with how busy people are, and just how like just burnt out we're feeling after this crazy 2022 wedding season. Like it was year of the wedding. Like we had so many, and I think all our vendor friends were just really feeling it. And I just end up feeling the anxiety like right here when that
Mm-hmm.
work-life balance is out of balance. And trying to get like back to that. Like how do you know and how do you feel when your work-life balance is just all messed up?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I think from the time that the pandemic hit to now, we really haven't had a break, because as much as the world shut down, people were still getting married or still doing micro weddings or elopements. And so we've been, as long as we've been allowed to work, we've been on a marathon ever since. So much of taking care of ourselves has been such a huge part. And so for me, I mean, it's even just this right here, just putting your
Yeah.
hand to your
Yeah,
heart,
me too.
putting
Like
your other hand on top, and just like deep breaths and letting your hands sit there, because that's actually a myofascial release technique to soothe your vagus nerve, which is your fight or flight. So you're actually doing something when you're like have this natural inclination to put your hand here. That's because you're you know um psychologically like giving your some self-soothing
some
right there.
relief right
That's it.
here. So just like
Yeah.
pressure. So if I'm walking around the house just like this,
Yeah.
husband will know why.
That's right. Exactly. And another thing that's like a quick, easy implement is 3 audible, relaxing sighs. This is based from John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction program. He's been research for like since the 70s or 80s on this. So very, very science based.
Wow.
If you do 3 audible relaxing sighs, it also activates that vagus nerve, which is all through from like the bottom of your brainstem through your almost to your tailbone. It's like right around your gut. And so it runs along your like your voice box, your larynx, and everything through right here as well. So
Yeah.
if you're able to do those audible sighs and vibrate your voice box in this like relaxing way, then it triggers your brain to know, okay, I can calm down here. So there's some quick
That's
implementable
great.
things
Well, that
when you
breathing, that
feel that
sigh,
anxiety rising.
yeah. I mean, that's actually something I do before every sales call. Like before I said hello to you, I did 3 breaths.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, not, I mean, you bring me the opposite of anxiety. You bring me like peace and happiness. But sometimes you're just like, I'm like up to here, and my
Yeah.
little nerves are just like, you can feel them just tingling, and it's able to like really take that, like take that down a notch. I think for me, it's really finding a way to get back to my routine. Like
Mm-hmm.
routine for me is just, it's like I'm a dog on a leash. I mean, like
Totally.
if I get off the leash and I'm like off my habits, it's not great. And I've got these, so a really good book, I'll put in the like show notes, is Rest: Why You Get More Done When You Work Less by Alex Soojung-Kim Pang. Have you read that at all,
I
Carrie, by
haven't
chance?
yet, but we've talked
Okay.
about it before. Yeah.
Yes, that is like, I think so helpful. I mean, that is something that just like changed my life, in the fact that like it's clinically proven that if you take a chunk of time to rest, and that could mean active rest. So for me, it usually means like going on a walk, going on a run, treadmill or the bike, or, whatever. But even just like getting outside, go to the mailbox, come back. Like if you just really take some really intentional time, it has this way of working your stress physically out of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And that I just find so helpful. But in the busy season, that's the first thing to go, at least for me.
Totally.
Like that's the first thing that's like, well, don't have time for my run today. And then we all wonder why I'm a crazy person.
Right, right.
I
I mean,
don't
right,
run.
naturally. And so that was right. The question that you originally asked before I went on that other tangent about bringing your heart hand to heart is how do I know when I'm out of sync? Is when I lose my routine, when I'm not able to sleep, when I'm staying up too late. And I'm like, oh, okay, what's happening here? And so then my whole sleep cycle changes. And that's one of my biggest tells, though, is not being able to sleep. And then also when when I'm not getting outside, when I'm tethered to my desk too much,
Yeah.
or just when I really feel like I don't want to be at my desk. And
Mm.
so
That's probably a
instead,
big one for a lot of our sweet little friends, is when their work
yeah,
is no longer fun.
right. And
Yeah,
it's okay for work to feel like work sometimes. Like that's going to happen, no
sure.
doubt.
Sure.
But also in that time, like really giving yourself permission to get back to routine, to take as many breaks as you need to walk up from your desk and go, is there somewhere else that you could potentially like bring your laptop and go work at a coffee shop for a few hours, change your environment?
Love that.
But really stepping into those like very, very basic things of sleeping enough, eating enough, and getting outside every day. When I find that I'm starting to recognize those patterns that I'm getting too stressed or I'm falling out of my regular rhythm, I'm like, okay, am I doing those things? Usually not. Like, and then I'm
Right.
like, okay, that's my goal this week.
That's it.
Every day, get outside. Every day, make sure I'm eating at least
Yep.
3 meals. Every day, make sure I'm getting at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And
Yep.
then after that week, I like feel so much better again.
Well, and we can
But
be like better, like more creative. At least for me, it's like that's how it's it's silly. I shouldn't have to rationalize why it's okay to take a break, but how I'm able to do that is like I'm actually a much like more productive, more creative, like I'm better
mm-hmm,
after I can have my schedule of rest. Like after
yeah,
I can come back from that rest period, I can serve my couples better. And so if you can't, if you're kind of like me and you're like, you're serving yourself the last, right? Like you're serving, you're taking care of yourself last, at least do it for your couples and do it for your people. Cause that, like, as weird as that is, like, I have to say that. Like, Kelsey,
yeah,
you'll be better. Like, eat a Snickers, you're hangry, come back. You'll be better.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And And it's okay to have that additional reasoning, right? To step away, and it being for your clients or being for your family or being for somebody that you love to be better by resting. It's okay for that to be your like additional crutch, let's say, while doing something just for yourself is a habit that you're working towards. It's
Right.
okay for that to be the stepping stone, but so long as what helps, whatever helps you to rest. The nap ministry, I can't remember the name of the founder, she's amazing, but the nap ministry has such great information around this, and just how so much of our work and production and everything is tied to capitalism in general, and just like
Mm,
industrialization, and even like rooting back to slavery. So
yeah.
um she speaks so much better on that than I could ever get into, but it's definitely part of the basis of us. So it's a huge revolution to just rest for yourself, and getting to a place where you can eventually just rest for
Mhm.
yourself, but in the meantime resting for the people that you love is like
Absolutely.
an amazing accountability partner almost.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, so talked a little bit about like strategies when you're feeling overwhelmed and burnt out. Like when you get to that point, when it's like, at least for me, it's like, it's right here.
Mhm.
I'm not super functional in the office. I can barely kind of like function on writing like, focus on writing an email. Like in those moments, what helps for you?
Mm.
We've got our,
I think yeah, I mean, it's a lot of that hand talk. It's a lot of like self-compassion. It's a lot of self-talk. It's like talking to myself, like, okay, here we are. You recognize that you're here. It's okay. We're going to do something about it. Like, I love you. You're still a good person. Like,
yeah,
you're going to be okay. Like, we've always figured it out before. We're going to figure it out now.
I love that.
And I almost have to think of myself as like a 4, 5, 6 year old, and like, what would I say to her when
Mm.
she's feeling really overwhelmed and like upset and tired and needs a nap, needs to rest? It's like,
Yeah,
what does she need to hear? Because that is what I need to hear.
for sure. But like, especially when we have these like negative thoughts, we
Hmm.
get on this train of negative thoughts and we just keep like in that rut that we can't get out of. And I think, at least for me, most of my anxiety comes from these like internal, not even that I'm hearing it all the time, but just kind of this like, you're not doing enough. You need to be doing more. Like you need to edit that wedding. It should have been done yesterday, like
Hmm.
whatever it is. And being able to really like, Kels, like your identity is not centered on this business. You're really good at what you do. And that's a whole thing, right? Like we can recognize that. But you're a human, you're a beautiful human. And you're
Hmm.
kind and you're good to your family. And you do, like center it, like taking away my identity as my business and just centering it on a human, like those positive thoughts seem to just be like so important.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Um,
You're talking about how like we need to reach out to our like friends and like gaining perspective, and we can just kind of like get into this like hole where we forget about that. Would you be comfortable kind of talking a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's fall, heavy wedding season. Summer was also crazy. Like I was saying at the beginning, like we really haven't had too much of a break since COVID,
Yeah.
and since the height of COVID anyway. And so um I am usually like really on top of my system, like making sure everything's like done at a certain time, making sure it's like getting to the editor, getting to, all these people. And so I previously was working with an editor. She isn't working anymore. So I've been taking on a lot of my own editing, or trying to find like ways to adjust to make it easier on my end. But either way, it's like a huge
It's a
workload
big,
added to
big
my plate.
workload. Yeah, that's
And
huge.
then
Just when you said that like you're transitioning to making your own, like you can't see the full eyebrow movement, but like I was like, what? Like just
yeah,
that is so
yeah.
much.
So that's
Yeah.
been a lot to take on. And then also I was working with a virtual assistant person, and they adjusted their business to be a little bit different and not do VA work anymore. So I'm onboarding a new VA person. So still, it's like
So
a
good.
lot of moving pieces at once. And then at the end of the summer, I was in a car accident, like out of nowhere.
Mhm.
Thankfully, mostly minor, but it was still very time consuming in the recovery and the, insurance things afterwards.
Yeah. Well, just
And
very
things.
humbling, I can imagine. right? Where it's
Yeah.
like, this is what happens when we can't be working in our business. Like, I mean, we can have a whole other, like show about like what systems we should be doing for that.
Yeah. Right. And just how much of like a linchpin in my business I am.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
and so it's like, okay, that's fine when it's just you and when everything is good and life is good and everything's great. But what if something happens? Like, what if you are in an accident? Are your systems ready to recover that for you so that you're able to take time to rest and still like, get things
Have
out
a
when you need to get them
business.
out? Exactly.
Yeah.
Have a
Yeah.
business. And so
Mm.
what happened with me is I just needed to figure out like what my new turnaround time was going to be for my clients and have that hard conversation of saying, hey, this happened, like this is the new timeline for the delivery of your gallery. And I, added a discount code for them to use for prints or whatever as like an additional thank you for their patience.
Yeah.
And everyone's been mostly great, but there's still those few people who are asking for their gallery earlier than they, are told that it's going to be, or um if I give a window and it's like the very beginning of that window, then they're like asking right away, and I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
like you'll get it,
Yeah.
and
Well, and
that's
that just
okay.
that just makes us leaving. Like, I mean, I can imagine like you just feel like you're not doing enough for them, right? Like,
Right.
even though you've put your expectations out and of
Right.
course been so apologetic, it's not the client's fault, of course. It's also
Right.
not your fault.
Right.
And so
Right.
really just trying to communicate that, like, how has that been?
It's been okay, but I mean mostly good, but also just like really hard
Yeah.
because I feel so disappointing, and like a couple people have actually said that, and I'm like, I appreciate you, and I'm doing everything I can, and I will get these to you as soon as possible, and I'm sorry that there's not more I can do. And I kind of just have to swallow it at that point. And so
Yeah.
in those times, like how do I self-soothe around that, or just like
Yeah. Yeah. How
get
do we
that
like
feeling out of my body? And so a lot of what we were saying in the beginning is a lot of that hand to heart, is the like moving that stress out of my body from a physical activity. Walking is amazing. Doing
Mhm.
any kind of like lifting, yoga. There's this great form of yoga called Buti Yoga, Buti, or Budhi. I think is like the originator from Hawaii, and the way that she incorporates like tribal dance and movement and stuff. But it's
Wow.
a lot of just like pounding and releasing to get all of that like big energy out of your body. So it's not something
Yeah.
you hold on to, so that you can still do all the things you have to do without your entire day, or longer, being shut down by
Longer.
someone telling you that they're disappointed, because that
Yeah.
sucks. Like it just sucks. There's no other way to
I
put
mean,
it.
all of us, I think all creatives have heard explicitly or not so explicitly, like people are disappointed in us. And that is just like knife to the heart. I mean, like, I mean, again, like we've been talking, like this is the space we feel it. It's right here. And it, at least for me, like it sits there. Like it's that physical, I mean, weeks, right? Where it's just like right here. And just like having that ability to A, recognize it, B, like mentally process it, and C, physically process it. I think
Right.
that's something that we think that if we've like, oh, I can think myself out of it, like I can convince myself that it's okay. To a certain extent, I agree. And I do the same thing, that like the self-talk, I reach out to friends, I talk to my husband, I've talked to, clients who were happy that are now friends.
Hmm.
Um, but if I don't get that physical activity and that like really releasing that stress cortisol, what is it? Stress hormone out of my
Hmm.
brain, it just isn't going to go anywhere. It's just going to
Hmm.
sit.
Yeah, and there's a lot of science around that too. There's a book called Burnout by Emily Nagoski and her twin sister, whose name is escaping me right now, but they came out with a book called Burnout in the last couple of years, basically saying exactly that. Like you can talk yourself down, you can um do all of the mental work, but unless you also do the physical release, then your, your body is still holding on to all of those feelings, all of that stress. And
Right.
so this is also evident in the book The Body Keeps the Score, um which is an amazing um, resource. I mean, I think everything you take a little bit of salt around all of it, right? But
Sure, sure.
um, but just goes to show that like your body does hold on to stress, does store trauma, unless it's released. And so making sure as much as you're taking care of yourself mentally, also getting that physical release for yourself to take care of yourself physically too.
Totally. So what does that look like for you on like, I mean, not just physical, I guess, but like just your rest schedule, like daily, monthly, yearly? Like what does that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it flexes and flows. I'm not perfect by any means, but I think what I have nurtured really well is a relationship with myself and knowing myself very, very closely and intimately in terms of understanding what feelings are as they're coming up, and then being able to accept and move through them. So I make sure that I'm resting at least 2 days every week, at least,
Mhm.
even in the height of busy season, like taking 2 full days off, no computer work, putting it aside, and then and getting outside, really just taking that time to like not not be on email, not being on computer. And so during that time, it's really important to also have your autoresponder up on your email, like your vacation responder,
Yeah.
just making sure your clients know, and like keeping your office hours in your signature line is a really good idea as well.
Yes, love
Just
that.
again, just setting that expectation as many places as you can so that people know what to look for and when they can potentially expect to hear from you,
Yeah.
or hopefully expect to hear from you, so that you aren't getting those additional texts or whatever. Because that's something I'm very likely going to get like a work phone, so that I have both of those things really out of place, or you know totally separate, my personal and my work,
Yeah.
because that's something that's just been coming up for me.
Totally. Well, even just
And
with the new, I've noticed that like if I put my do not disturb notifications on, or lack of, so it's like you turn your do not disturb, it turns on automatically for me at 5 p.m.
mhm,
and I don't get any notifications unless it's from my, family and friends list, but no texts, no emails, no Instagram, no Facebook, no any of that until like 8 a.m. the next morning. So
mhm.
it's just a
Yeah.
solid, I mean, I'm in the office before 8 a.m., but I'm there to do my creative things. I'm not
Mhm,
there to answer emails. And honestly, like the biggest move, another big move I've made is I don't check email every day. I just
mhm.
don't. I do it every other day and not on Saturday or Sunday. So those are my like off days. And so it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I check
Yep,
emails. And
perfect.
like you just said, care about the when your office hours are in the body of your email. It's like I check emails Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Just as like so they know you don't be expecting me to look at emails every day. And that has just been so much just living outside of the inbox.
Yeah. Yeah, just to get your time back and have your headspace back, because um it's a client communication is really important, but also you need space to be able to be creative as well, and more creative for them, and grow in your abilities and everything. So going back to that, like it's going to be beneficial for them too, for you to have those boundaries on your inbox.
Right.
um I'm I'm onboarding someone to handle a lot of my inbox, and like have only the necessary things for me to see in a separate email that
Yep.
I see as well. So I think just creating as many of those boundaries as possible of like what I really do and don't see
Hmm.
is so important for me, because those times there is a less than stellar email, it could potentially shut me down for like the rest of the day. And I'm like, I don't need that. Nobody really needs that. Like,
No, nobody.
it's
And
not
like,
going to be helpful for
no.
anyone in the long run. It probably is important, and I will definitely acknowledge and make sure that person feels seen and heard and
Yeah.
understood. But it doesn't have to happen right away, and it won't be helpful for me to respond right away anyway.
No, no, absolutely. I mean, and again, like as rare as that is, right? Like it's rare for us to get emails like that. Like,
Right. Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
know that. But like when they do come through, it is, you're so right. It's helpful to just have like their own, like their own space. And then
Hmm.
like for me, even on top, so at least like daily for me, it's like I carve out like 2 to 3 hours in the morning. I don't
Hmm.
look at emails. That's where the magic happens. Like that's where all the creativity and like the really fun things happen. And then in the middle of the day, that's where, so at 11 o'clock, for instance, from 11 to like 2 p.m., that's my time to run and eat a nice lunch and like shower, get dressed, all that sort of stuff. In the afternoon, between like 2 to 4, those are my emails and the
Yep.
consultation calls. Like at the
Yep.
end of the day, when I have less like energy,
Hmm.
that's when I'm doing the more like, less urgent, equally important, but like less urgent email stuff.
And also like externally stimulating. So
Yeah.
you're you're responding to something when in an email or on those consultation calls or something like that. Like that's more of a response than a have to generate as much as you do when it's writing time in the morning or something like that. And so yeah, same as what I do is like I take some time in the morning. I journal to start my day. I have like a
Yeah.
bunch of questions I roll through or just free write based on what is coming through for me that morning. It's a really, really good way for me to get into my subconscious and just understand where it is. And
Yeah.
then eat like a great breakfast. I usually work out first thing just because that's when I like to. And then we'll get into work. Say there's like a couple projects that I'm working on and need to check stuff off for, do that. And then emails or consultations are always in that afternoon window time.
Mhm.
Um, and then I'll usually make sure I'm just like getting outside to walk 2 or 3 times throughout the day as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, and one thing that I always like to do is I have a roof deck, and so get up to the roof for sunset each night because that's like my note from the world, from the universe to be like, all right, time to wind down. Let's go hang out, like see what the day held, and take like 10 minutes or so just to kind of reflect, and then um usually go down and start dinner or something like that.
I love
Or
that.
my fiance is coming in from work and he does a lot of our cooking actually. But
I
just
mean,
to
you're
kind of
you're you're there
wrap
in
up.
spirit, you know.
Yeah, I'm there, for support.
You're
I'll add some
contributing.
tunes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, this doesn't look like a good pepper. I'm just gonna eat that.
Yeah,
It's quality
exactly.
control, really. You're helping him.
Yeah. It's like, are we listening to Enya or Carly Rae Jepsen or like some other kind of music or whatever? We just figure out the vibe of the day. And I said it. So
Someone has to do that. Okay, it's a very important
truly,
thing to do. Okay.
yes, exactly.
I love it. I love it. I love the like before I walk out of the office, that's my gratitude practice. It's kind of
Hmm.
like your sunset, right? Where it's like I literally it's not just like, okay, bye, like shutting things off. It's more like shut the things off, go through the gratitude practice, and then I'm feeling so good for when I really do. And then I shut the office door, right? Like I'm not looking at emails in the, at night. I'm not texting. I'm not doing any of that stuff. It just really I've really loved that specific aspect of just being able to spend quality time with husband at home instead of just like being,
Yeah.
in my phone or thinking about other things. It's like I've done it and I've written down my tasks to do for the next day. Like, I've kind of gathered that thought, put it down, and then I can, yeah, walk away.
Yeah. And so that's a great point too, is just that gratitude practice. That's something actually like Joel and I do this together at dinner instead of I grew up Catholic, so like we would always say grace, but I'm not really practicing anymore. So
Oh, yeah. My
that's
family would do the
our
same.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so instead of grace, we'll just say like nice things. And so
Oh, love
a lot
that.
of times, a lot of times it's just like, this was a great thing about my day, and or just like something that I love about you. And
Yeah.
it's such a nice acknowledgement of where each of us are. And it's also a nice way for us to just get to know how each of us are doing. It's such a connecting practice and really brings so much joy throughout the day. So
So great.
for the rest of the night and then into the next day. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, so closing out really quick, I want to talk a little bit about your courses that you're offering with Aligned and just how wonderful and empowering it is. And we'll have a coupon code for you as well. But something that I really love, you include Reiki in your in your coaching, right? Like,
Mhm.
where is that? Like, remind me. I know it's somewhere, and I thought it
Yeah.
was such a great idea. So, firstly, tell us all what it is, and like where we can find it for you.
Yeah. So Reiki is an energy healing practice. It's not affiliated with any particular religion at all. It has a history in Chinese medicine, but isn't, traditional Chinese medicine by any means. And it uses, universal white light just to move any potential, stuck things in your body. And so I practice distance Reiki. I'm a level 3 master Reiki practitioner.
No big
Just
deal. Just a
means,
black belt in Reiki.
just means, just means that I can do Reiki like either in person, by distance, and I can also certify people to do Reiki as well. And so I include distance Reiki in my group coaching program called In High Demand, and as well as some like pop-ups if people happen to see it on my Instagram. And I'm feeling it that week, but I include Reiki in my group coaching program In High Demand, which is an 8-week everything from like how to set up and manage your money to be really profitable, and workflows, and then really, really digging into sales, and then how to like outsource and grow a team. So it's everything you could potentially need for your business on the business side of things that a lot of us creatives don't always have. So I also include the Reiki because it's such a supportive way to check in with how you are, how your person's doing, how your body's doing. And so I will tap in with you. It's 30 minutes, we check in together. I just attune to your energy, see what comes through. I write down notes the whole time, and then I share what those notes are with you afterwards. And every time people are like, how do you know this? I'm like, I don't. I just write stuff. I just write whatever comes through.
It just channels,
and,
okay? Yeah.
And like, if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. And that's, totally fine. But
Like the force is strong, right? It's like our little Star Wars nerds out there, like the force is strong with this one.
Exactly. And so it's just a really cool way to support my clients additionally, outside of just the business or mindset. It's like an additional energy, body work stuff that can just, there's nothing active that you have to do for it. So that's a really nice part. It's just like, here's some information if it helps.
Thank you again, Kerry.
Thanks,
and thank you everybody's listening.
Yes.